since our baby was born. Let's have a baby shower. Since this is your first grandchild, please be generous with the gift money. Feeling proud, I handed her an envelope with some money inside, only to get a sharp response. Only $300? That's an insult. That won't even cover the diapers. I was shocked. She turned pale and started shaking. My name is Olivia. I'm 57 years old, and I work in an office. My husband, John, owns an auto repair shop, which he runs with our son-in-law, Mason. Mason married our oldest daughter, Ava. They specialize in fixing luxury cars, and their business is doing very well because there's a high demand for repairs and inspections from luxury car dealerships. Mason often says, "You're really good at business. I need to learn from you and work harder." Mason and Ava have been married for 5 years. Before that, Mason worked in an office job but loved cars. He got his mechanic certification and started working with John. Although we don't live with Ava and Mason, since Ava started working as a secretary at her husband's shop, we see them almost every day. Their house is close to ours, so I often visit, and the 4 of us spend time together. Mason is friendly and easy to talk to, and anyone would think he's our real son. We do have a biological son, but we rarely see him since he moved away for work. William, our son, is 2 years younger than Ava. He never showed interest in his father's shop. After finishing college, he got a regular office job. When he was younger, he used to say he wanted to take over the shop one day, but as he got older, he changed his mind. He said, "There's no way to make a living working at a repair shop these days. I don't want to be covered in grease either." John never really planned for William to take over the business, but when William said he didn't want to take over, John felt sad. He had hired several employees and was thinking about the future. When Mason joined the business, John felt relieved. He knew the business would be in good hands. Ava was surprised when Mason became John's apprentice, but she was happy too. I knew Mason loved cars, but I never expected him to take over the business. Since William never planned to, I guess it's okay. John's business is doing well, and that's why Ava often asks me if William is planning to take over the shop someday. Ava has reason to be concerned. William's wife, Emma, has a very blunt personality. William and Emma got married 2 years ago, and even the first time they came to our house, Emma made a strong impression. When she arrived with William, the first thing she said was, "This is a very blue-collar home, isn't it? Is this what self-employed people's homes are like?" My husband and I were so shocked by Emma's comment that we couldn't respond. Ava, who was also there, got really angry and immediately said, "Who do you think you are? What are you saying to your fiancé's parents?" But Emma stood her ground and replied, "I'm just expressing my true feelings. Please stop picking on me before we're even married." I tried to calm things down because it looked like the 2 women were about to argue, and I wanted to continue with the introduction to the marriage, but then William said, "Just because we're getting married doesn't mean we'll live here or depend on you." It seemed like William wasn't happy about Mason helping with his father's business and getting along so well with us. Ever since Ava and Mason married, William seemed to want to distance himself from us even more. Mason wasn't there that day out of consideration, but William made a sarcastic comment. "Ava's husband isn't here today, huh? I thought it would be embarrassing if he showed up all greasy and dirty like he usually does. I'm relieved he's not here." Even though William had said he wouldn't take over my husband's shop, I thought he might not be happy that Mason, who isn't a blood relative, would become the successor. Hearing William's words made me angry, and I snapped back. "Are you jealous of Mason? You were the one who said you wouldn't take over your father's shop." I raised my voice, but my usually calm husband stepped in and said, "Don't get so angry, everyone. Since William's fiancée is here to introduce herself, let's try to get along. This is supposed to be a happy occasion." I tried to calm down and keep quiet, but then Emma said, "I don't mind. I have no intention of getting along with you anyway." She spoke to us in a way that made it sound like she was looking down on us. Ava and I, who had just started to calm down because of my husband's words, got angry again. We gave Emma a stern look, but she seemed amused. "You common people are so quick to get angry," she said with a smile. "As someone from an upper-class family, I've never been angry before." She proudly boasted about being from an upper-class family. According to William, Emma's father is the director of a large company, which probably explains why she called us common folk. The thought of her becoming our daughter-in-law didn't sit well with us. Even my husband seemed to think that, given the situation, a pleasant greeting for the marriage was impossible. So, he suggested to William and the others, "How about we wrap this up for today? This was just a meet and greet anyway." The 2 of them quickly left. After they were gone, Ava was still upset. What was with that woman? She fumed. She was boasting about being the daughter of an upper-class family. Just because her father is a company director, she can't get too full of herself. Even my husband, who had been trying to calm us down, seemed shocked and said, "William really has a tough person to marry. I'm worried about what's to come." He then told us about how Emma had been difficult during the wedding preparations the day before. Emma had come to our house and said, "Please make sure to wash yourselves and your hair clean since you work at a mechanic shop, future father-in-law, and make sure to wear a dress that won't embarrass you, future sister-in-law. You do realize you're an ugly sister-in-law, right? So at least make sure your appearance is decent." She said this in a rude tone. I was about to yell back at her in anger, but my husband responded calmly. "Understood. We'll make sure not to cause any trouble." Emma seemed surprised by this. She probably expected us to get angry, but she didn't know how to react to my husband's polite response and left looking dissatisfied. At the wedding the next day, Emma made more rude comments in front of our family. She said, "It's embarrassing for everyone to know your relatives, so please behave. And this area smells oily, it's all because of you." Mason, who was meeting Emma for the first time, looked surprised and said, "I'd heard rumors, but she's worse than I expected." Mason usually has long, unkempt hair and a beard, but that day he had cut his hair and wore a suit. Emma had no complaints about his appearance, but I secretly wished he had come in his usual work clothes, with his long hair and beard, just to see how Emma would react. After the wedding, we didn't hear from William at all. I said, "I wonder if William is doing okay." My husband replied, "No news probably means he's fine." I was worried too, but if we contact him, his wife might get angry. Let's wait for them to contact us. When they came for the marriage greeting, they had clearly said they didn't want to associate with us, so it felt awkward to reach out. 2 years passed without any contact from William, but Emma's behavior at the wedding still came up in conversations whenever my husband, Ava, Mason, and I had a meal together. Mason said, "I don't think Emma knew who I was. No one introduced me to her. She probably saw me as just some dirty relative." I laughed and replied, "It would have been funny if you had come in your usual work clothes with your messy hair and beard. She might have kicked you out." Everyone laughed heartily. At the wedding, the atmosphere had been so tense that no one introduced Mason to Emma. By the time they had the chance, it was too late. But now, Mason had fully blended into our family, and it felt like we had a wonderful son, even without William. Then, one day, a heavy snowfall caused cars to get stuck everywhere. My husband's shop was busy with customers asking for help to tow their cars. My husband and Mason had gone out to help a foreign car dealer, but when they came back, they both looked down. Ava, worried, asked Mason what was wrong, but he just said, "No, it's nothing." He acted like nothing had happened, so I didn't think much of it. A few days later, William and Emma suddenly showed up at our house. Emma was holding a baby in her arms. When I saw the baby, I couldn't help but smile. Ava, who was visiting, smiled too and said, "Emma, you had a baby." She reached out to touch the baby, but then recoiled, yelling, "Don't touch her with your dirty hands, the oil smell will rub off." Seeing the baby made me forget everything for a moment, but I realized, even as a mother, Emma still hadn't changed. The tension returned, and Emma said, "Now that our child is born, let's have a baby shower. Since it's your first grandchild, please be generous with the gift money." She spoke in her usual sarcastic tone. I quickly put $300 in an envelope and handed it to her. I hadn't planned for this, so I didn't have time to prepare more or ask what she wanted. I thought I could always give her more later. Emma immediately checked the envelope, saw the amount, and shouted, "Are you kidding me? Only $300? That's not even enough for diapers." Her loud reaction shocked me. My usually calm husband suddenly took the envelope back from Emma and said, "Don't disrespect us. The father of that child isn't William, is it?" His words left me completely confused. When my husband yelled, Mason, who had been in the back room, came in. He looked puzzled at first, but when he saw Emma, he was shocked. Emma, seeing Mason, looked startled and quickly tried to hide her face. My husband said to Emma, "Seeing Mason, does that jog your memory? You remember him from the luxury minivan, don't you? You were complaining to him during the snowstorm." Still confused, Ava, William, and I were all shocked. My husband added, "And by the way, tell the man you were with that if he's going to have an affair, he should at least do it when it's not snowing, or else he'll get caught." We were all confused, but hearing the word affair, William's face suddenly went stiff, and Ava and I exchanged looks of disbelief. Emma quickly denied everything. What are you talking about? The snowstorm? The affair? You're not making any sense. But she was flustered, clearly not acting like her usual self. At my husband's signal, Mason brought out his phone and showed Emma something on it. My husband explained. On the day of the snowstorm, Emma and a man got stuck in a luxury minivan, and Mason and I went to rescue them. I didn't recognize Emma at first, but it seemed strange that there was a baby in the car. I was wearing a mask, sunglasses, and a helmet, so she probably didn't recognize me, but Mason had long hair and a beard, so she must remember him. When my husband finished explaining, Mason said, "Everything is on our car's dash cam, so she can't deny it." Mason showed Emma the footage. She gasped when she saw it and quickly turned her face away. Ava, William, and I stared at the screen. On the video, Emma and a man we didn't recognize were complaining to Mason, saying, "We have a baby on board, moving already, you slacker." On the screen, Emma was yelling while my husband and Mason were putting chains on the expensive minivan. Emma and the unknown man were whispering to each other. My husband, looking angry, said, "The dash cam doesn't record sound, but I heard everything. William is such a fool for believing the child is his." Then he turned to Emma and said, "Well, Emma, you're the fool for talking about your affair right in front of your father-in-law without even realizing it." As my husband spoke, Ava asked, "What are you saying? Is all of this true? Tell me." William suddenly yelled, "Emma." Emma stammered and said, "Of course, it's a lie," but her pale face said otherwise. Mason added, "Didn't you say you divorced William at the right time? I clearly heard you. You also said you'd make sure to get child support, and you sounded happy about it." Emma's face turned even more anxious. She began shaking as she held the baby, and the baby started crying. Emma quickly pointed at us, saying, "Look what you did. The baby's crying because you're all mean to me." Then, she said, "Enough is enough, I'm going home today," and stormed out, leaving William behind. William's face turned red with anger, but once Emma left, he calmed down a bit. He looked at his father and asked, "Is what you said earlier true?" His father nodded silently. Mason explained further. "Emma's lover is the president of a company that works with our shop. I heard from some dealers that Emma went with him when he came to buy a car. Apparently, they bought the minivan because they were having a baby." William buried his face in his hands, and then crouched down, overwhelmed. Later, a DNA test confirmed the child was not William's. William immediately filed for divorce. Emma, on the other hand, later said, "Marrying a commoner like him was my mistake." Emma yelled defiantly, but the DNA test results showed that the child's father was not the president, another man was the father. This caused even more confusion. It turned out that Emma had cheated with another man, and the child was his, though this man was married. William sought compensation in the divorce and also demanded compensation from both of Emma's lovers. Emma's family, who had always boasted about their high-class background, turned out not to be that wealthy. They had to borrow money to pay the divorce compensation. The reason Emma had the affair with the president was because she wanted to live a high-class lifestyle, but her plan didn't work out. She didn't remarry the president. Instead, he sued her for breach of engagement. After splitting up with Emma, William became distrustful of women. He declared, "I'll never get married again," and started living alone. For my husband and me, our first grandchild turned out to be a fantasy. However, we soon found out that Ava was expecting a baby, and we were thrilled. Mason jokingly said to my husband, "Rest assured, the baby is definitely mine." When the baby arrives, we plan to live together with Ava and Mason. It looks like our life is going to be lively and full of joy.